So now that you've grasped all those concepts we just talked about, let's move on and throw a few more things into the mix. So not only do we have track input type available to us, but we can also adjust the track input level. So if we turn this on, go back to our mixer, now we have this next option, track input level. What does that do for us? To put it plainly, this fader controls the level at which the signal goes into the Insert Send Effects option. Now with this option, the track input level, we're starting to see some of the higher functionality that's been brought down from Nuendo. We're starting to see not just a basic mixer here in Liquid Edition anymore, but this is looking more and more like a full-on professional audio mixing console. So with the track input level, this allows us to control the level of signal going into the Insert Send effect. So what's that? Well, if we go back to the settings, Insert Effects and Sends. So if we click on that and go back to the mixer, now there's a new plus here. Let's click on that. Insert Effects and Sends. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a button that says Bypass Insert Effects and Sends. This little guy, which doesn't tell us anything, but that E stands for Editor. And now I've got a little down arrow. If I click on that, Insert Audio Effects. Oh, wow. Stereo Echo, Leveler, Chorus, Grungealizer, Liquid EQ, Karaoke, Reverb, Surround Pan, Equalizer, and Stereo Spread. Holy moly. What about Insert Send? New Send Bus. Okay. Let's try a Grungealizer effect on here. So if I go down to Grungealizer and click... So now I've got the Grungealizer here. What does the E allow me to do? Well, it opens up the Grungealizer editor, of course. So we'll take a look at these as we go. So notice the Grungealizer editor looks a lot like our regular 2D and 3D video editors in the fact that we've got the reverse effect. We've got keyframes down here, although they're grayed out. Play control, so on and so forth. Let me go to Options. Keyframes. Don't use keyframes. So apparently the Grungealizer is an effect that's applied to the entire track. And how can I tell that? Well, let me come down here to the music track and notice now there's a purple line there, and you can see when I mouse over it, it says All Filters Grungealizer. So indeed, this purple line right here on the music track is indicating that the Grungealizer has been applied to the entire track, not just this piece of music. So let's take a listen to what the Grungealizer does. Notice in the settings here, we've got very old vinyl selected. If I hit play, wow, that sounds like a really old vinyl record. What else do we have? Default. Okay. If we go to the top of the list, just a little. Okay, let's take a listen. All right, I hear a little bit of crackle in there. Default, what does that sound like? Again, a little bit more crackle. How about heavy? Let's take a listen there. Yep, that kind of sounded like the old vinyl. So pretty amazing stuff here. And just take a look at the Grungealizer very quickly. You can see we've got crackle. We can dial in a 33, 45, or 78 RPM style record speed. We can add noise. We can distort it just by clicking and dragging. We can adjust the EQ. So let's take a listen at that. Alright, so lots of crackle, and the EQ is adjusted now. We crank it up that way. It's really minimized it, made it very tony and narrow sounding. And then notice down here we've got a timeline dial. We've got today or 1900. If I dial it to 1900, sounds real crackly. If I dial it up to today, sounds a lot better. Sounds like today. What about the AC? What does that do? Let me dial back to 1900, pull off the AC. And I don't know if you noticed, but now there's no hum in the background. If I dial up the AC, hear that hum in the background? So a lot of stuff you can do here. And by the way, this is a VST plugin. And I can tell that fairly quickly by coming here to this little properties box. And you can see load VST, save VST. A lot of options there. So let's get out of here using the girly man in the top right corner. What if I wanted to get rid of my grungualizer and add something else? Well, if I click on the grungualizer, come down to delete, it's gone. I just deleted the grungualizer, and perhaps music isn't always the best thing to use these effects on. So I'm just going to click on this clip, delete it. So notice when I deleted that clip, the panning still remains because it's a track-specific panning. And where do I control that from? It's up here, and if I right-click, the panning goes away. Right-click again, it shows the panning. So we'll right-click and turn it off. We'll right-click on the volume control so that we can see the blue line of the volume. Now I'm going to grab this voiceover track right here, something I was just messing around with, checking my audio signals. Let's play through it very quickly. Check 1, 2. So here I am recording my voiceover. Okay, so there I was, recording my voiceover. Let's zoom in a little bit. We will trim that so we get right into the voice. Move it over. And now let's go and add another audio effect. Perhaps in this case, we might try stereo echo and just give that a listen. So again, we go into the editor so we can see what's going on. So we've added a stereo effect to this track, not just the one clip. If I hit play. So here I am recording my voiceover straight from my microphone through my mixer. All right, there you go. So there's stereo echo. Let's right-click, delete that. So going back then, we tried the stereo echo. You can see there's all kinds of other plugins, and I would encourage you to play with these as you go, just to get a feeling for what they are. I would encourage you to play with these and see how they work. Let's try the chorus just for fun. We'll come in here, we'll actually go into the edit, and we'll hit play into out. So that's pretty cool if it works. So that's pretty cool if it works. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's giving me some kind of electronic process sound. Let's go back to init 1 and see what that does. So that's pretty cool if it works. So here we are in init 1. Let's dial up the width and the feedback and the glimmer and the output level and see what happens. So that's pretty cool if it works. Okay, it sounds a little funky. Let's dial everything up and see what happens. Okay, so you can see you can really mess with things here, and right-clicking on these guys resets them to their defaults. Maybe try that. That's pretty cool if it works. So that's pretty cool if it works. Okay, so there you go. You can see there's a lot of fun to be had here and a lot of power. You don't even have to go out to Wavelab or other systems now because it's all right here. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of horsepower here, and we barely scratched the surface, and there's so much more I need to show you, so let's continue on. And in doing so, I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking here. I am going to grab my voiceover, not that it's that wonderful, and I'm going to stick it here underneath the music. So now it sounds like... Now what's going on there? I really want the audio effect, that funky talking down a pipe sound, to be applied to this clip right here, or at least this track. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to right-click here, rename this, and I'll call this VO for voiceover. Now I want to get that track effect down here to this one. So how am I going to do that? Can I right-click on the purple line? Ooh, look at that. Copy. All right, can I right-click here and paste it? Paste, 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 paste. Do you see paste? No, I need to stick it into a buffer somewhere. So let me right-click here. I'll create a new rack. And I will call this ASFX for Audio Special Effects. Now I right-click in here. Hey, there's paste. And there's my chorus effect. And let me right-click and rename this Funky. All right, there we go. So there's Funky. So now if I come back here to the purple line, right-click, choose Delete. It's gone. Now if I click and drag Funky over here, let me listen to the music. Music's fine. And I don't hear that. Oh, you know what? It works better if you turn it on. Hey, look at that. And now you can see Funky is showing up over here. So let's take a listen. So there it is. But it's a little loud. If I pull that track down, that's just pulling down that one particular clip. How could I get around this? Well, again, I could undo that. Oh, notice our undo keyframe buttons work now. What if I hold down Shift and pull the entire level down? Well, that's one way of doing it. But you know what I've done there? Not only have I pulled down the level of the effect being applied to the clip, the voiceover, but I've also pulled down the level of my voice. Is there a way I can pull down the level of the clip that's being applied while maintaining the level of my audio? Well, I'm glad you asked, because yes, there is. So let me double click here to reset my volume. Let me undo that. That's not going to work. If I were to just click and drag and pull this back up to 0, is that the quickest way? Well, it's not the most precise way. Let me do this. Let me go to the first keyframe on that track. Where'd it go? You know why that happened? Because that track is not active. And now if I turn it on, and now go over here, there we go. So now I just double click here to reset that to 0, but now you can see I've got a ramp down. Well, if I come over here, copy value to next keyframe, click, boom, there it is. It's reset. But what I want to do here is I want to send this out to an effects bus. So how do we do that? Click here, insert send, new send bus. And there it is. Okay, so we've got this send bus, but it doesn't have any effects applied to it, whereas the funky effect is still over here on this particular track, which is the voiceover track. How do we get an effect from here over to here? If I come down here and copy, can I right click, insert? I can't paste. Okay, so there must be another way to do it, and there is. Let's just play through this and hear the noise. Okay, so there it is. That's the funky effect of being applied to the voiceover clip down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the funky effect by clicking on the editor. And instead of copying all these values, I can just come here and I will save that VST bank. I've created a special effects folder under my Program Files Liquid Edition 6.1b SFX folder. And now I'm just going to call this FUNKY, save. We'll exit the editor. Okay, that's disabled. I'll come over here. We'll click on this line. We'll go to Insert Audio Effects, go to Chorus, and then we'll edit that chorus. We'll go to Load VST Bank, Funky. All right, we'll get out of here. Now if I play through, what happens? So here I am recording my voiceover. If I pull this microphone through my mixer, so if I pull that fader down, you can hear that funky effect goes away. So let's start again. Let me do this. Let me pull the music down to a more acceptable level by holding down Shift and then pulling my fader up and down. It adjusts the entire line of that audio, that music piece. Now if I hit play. So here I am recording my voiceover straight from my microphone through my mixer into the sound card through the line-in device. So that's pretty cool if it works. And we'll find out now in a second. Alright, so I apologize if that's a little annoying to listen to, but I'm trying to make a point here. By adding the send effects bus, now I can control the volume of the effect being applied to the voiceover clip. Follow the signal path with me, if you will. I'm coming from my voiceover track up into the voiceover fader. I'm going through the track input level, which in this case does not boost that voiceover when it goes into the send effects. It goes into the send effects bus, and again I could boost it here by adjusting that. And then it goes from this routing into the send effects bus. And then the sound effect is applied within the send effects bus. And then coming out the top of each one of these faders, the clean signal without the effect goes up into the stereo mixer, and then the stereo mixer goes to my audio output, as well as the send effects bus coming out, going into the stereo mixer, and then going to the output of Liquid Edition, which then goes to my hardware device, in this case my Sound Blaster card. So that's a little bit confusing perhaps, but it's basically splitting off the signal into two channels, and then over here applying an effect, and then controlling the volume of that effect over here in the send effects bus. So that in a nutshell is send effects buses. Just to wrap up thoughts on the send effects bus and our funky effects and all that, if I right click on this particular track, you can see I can show clip volume and track output panning. And the point I want to make here is I've got mark in, mark out points on my timeline. So if I went into automation right now, would it record the send effects bus automation, adjusting the level up and down? Unfortunately, no, it would not. It's only going to record and keyframe the clip fader volume of the actual audio track and the panning. We don't have the ability to keyframe send effects automation at this time.